I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. I'm Groot. Hey guys, welcome to the Xtreme Channel. Today's pretty extreme, and it's not because I worked for 13 hours then rushed home to get this review in for you guys. It's because I had so many technical issues. This is the fourth time I'm filming this. That's right, fourth time. I assembled it and disassembled it 4 different times, so you can see that during the review today. But that's what we're doing. See that? He just switched directions. We are reviewing this 1/4 scale Groot and Rocket statue from Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy. This is manufactured and distributed by XM Studios. So really excited to have this piece because this is actually the second in the Guardians of the Galaxy line that they have released. I own their Star-Lord piece. I've actually done a review you can check out right here. Now that Groot and Rocket are in the house, I'm going to join them with my custom Drax. You guys have seen this piece right here. And believe it or not, I just got Sideshow's Gamora in the mail the other day. I've yet to open it up yet. However, I think they're going to look fantastic next to each other. I plan to put XM Thanos near them as well. This channel is all about extreme collectibles, obviously. Tons of pop culture stuff, and especially statues. And I purchased him because I wanted to do an entire Guardians of the Galaxy theme. And as I said, this kind of completes it. I'm going to put some other cosmic beings with them, like Silver Surfer and such. Because I have a few Silver Surfer statues if you've watched the channel before. But today, like I said, we're going to do an in-depth review on Rocket and Groot. And I'm pretty excited. So most people nowadays do know who Rocket and Groot are simply from the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the MCU. They were obviously part of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, both 1 and 2, and I believe 3 is filming right now. And of course, the last 2 Avenger movies that came out. Now, when you look at these pieces, you're going to notice they look a little bit different. That's because they modeled these after comics. Wait, they made a comic out of the movie? That's right.
Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it.
So XM Studios is big into comic statues. If they're going to do a Marvel or DC line, traditionally they follow not a movie statue, but a comic statue, and that's no exception here. If you want to see what he looks like with the rest of those pieces, make sure to check out the Xtreme Channel Facebook page or Instagram. I put the link in the description below. Last night, since this is airing in the morning, I actually posted a picture of these guys next to XM Studios' Star-Lord. And then in a few days, I'll actually post a picture with Drax and Gamora as well. But today, let's focus on these guys. And as always, we're going to start with the concept of these pieces, and it's pretty cool. So as we start on the base of this piece, it is modeled just like the Star-Lord piece. You have the very similar rocky ground, and we don't know what planet they're on, but we presume they crash-landed on a planet. Now, instead of the cockpit that Star-Lord is jumping out of, the broken cockpit, this is a huge rocket or burner. Kind of funny, there's a rocket at the bottom and the top of the statue. Now, we're going to talk about a few of the switch-out options, but as we continue to move up, you see full adult Groot. He's not your typical cute Groot that we've grown to know and love in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this is a badass, fierce, pissed-off Groot. And you can presume, just like Star-Lord, after whatever crash, whether they caused the crash or they were in the crash, they're immediately going into a battle. You see Groot in a very dynamic Heisman Trophy attack pose, and Rocket is on top of him with his weapons out. He's a master of weapons. He has a very fierce look on his mouth, and the same can be said about Groot as well, if you didn't notice that. He doesn't look cute. He doesn't look friendly, as I said. He looks pissed. And I love what they did with this statue. I love how it's following a storyline with Star-Lord. Makes me wonder if they're going to do more characters. I like the fierce, dynamic pose. I like how they're showing these lovable characters in the middle of a battle. And there's no jokes. These guys just look like they're ready to fight. So I think it's pretty cool. I like everything they did with this concept. The size is something, but we'll talk more about that in design. But I honestly think that it's a knockout of the park on the concept of this piece. It makes it very different than its competitor out there, which we'll talk about in value, the Sideshow piece. So I think the concept's a 5 out of 5. I'm very impressed. It's very cool. I was a lot more elaborate probably in the last 3 reviews, but I'm tired and I want to go to bed. But first, we will talk about the design. So on design, we're going to talk about a number of things from the size to the unboxing and assembly. So let's just start with the size. So measuring it for the 4th time, the widest point of the base is approximately 21 inches or so. For exact dimensions, go to XM Studio's website. Now, Groot's arm, as you see, does stick out a significant amount more. It's probably about 5 inches longer. The depth of the piece is right under 16 inches. And the tallest part with Groot on top, because there are some different display options, is about 29 inches or so, a little bit higher. Just Groot's head is right at about 25 inches. Now, before we look at those display options, let's look at the unboxing and assembly. As expected, one giant, huge box, and had the dreaded customs check label. Standard foam with the black straps, and it was only one layer. Everything was wrapped in wax paper and plastic, as you can see right here. So you saw some of those display options in the unboxing and assembly, and it namely is Rocket. So let's start with that. You can actually have Rocket on top like I have him here. There's actually a keyhole that his foot goes into, which as you saw, can be replaced by a tree piece. And Groot has a lot of tree pieces on him, so it looks very natural. But you can also display Rocket on the Rocket below here. So if height is an issue for you, which it is for me where I'm putting him, you can display him right in here. Just like above, if you're not going to display him in here, they gave you a little piece to cover the keyhole. Rocket also has some arm switch outs. He comes with 4 arms that you can intermix any way you want. There are 2 large guns, you can see right here, and 2 smaller guns. Now, I actually like it where he's holding 1 large and 1 small gun. It's awesome that XM Studios did that. I am really impressed. And in classic XM format, it came with the usual stuff. So you have the envelope, and first thing you have is the art print, usually in the pose of the statue right here. And then you have a layout as everything is in the box as you saw in the assembly. On the back, how to register your product. And then a QR code to take you to a YouTube assembly video that does not exist. Yes, apparently they haven't put it up yet. they can use mine since I did it 4 times. And I got my nifty XM plaque. So on this one, it's interesting. They actually wrote the number of statues that they made, 300. Remember the XM Sabretooth I did last week, I complained they didn't. And it says they made 90 cards. Now the problem with this plaque right here saying they made 300 statues is the bottom of the statue says they made 350. It's a huge conspiracy. As far as assembly on everything, magnets, pins, everything was very strong, worked really well. I had to use a little bit of elbow grease to get the left arm in. There is one issue, and I don't even know if it's an issue, but it's definitely noticeable. Check this out. The left foot doesn't sit flush at all. And honestly, I don't think it's meant to. The right foot is in fully. There is no weight being put on this, but I'm not really sure what this is about. As I said, this is a giant piece. So it is 1/4 scale. It means if Rocket and Groot were real, they would have taken those life-size versions and shrunk them down 4 times the original size. So as I said, it'll be interesting to see how they scale with the other pieces, but kind of in my head, I believe they're going to scale very well. I love the fact they offer different options of where to display Rocket. I remember initially it was just on the top, and then some collectors asked for another option. So I thought they were going to do a proximity piece initially, but I think it's genius being able to put him right on the Rocket there. One other thing as well, there's a slight seam line where Groot's head goes in. You can check it out right here. I can get over this though because he is a tree, so it does have a little bit of a natural look to it. Other than the foot, I think they did some really genius things with the design and engineering of this guy. So I think that's a 4 out of 5 on the extreme scale. Extremely well done, very impressed. However, the most impressive parts to me are the paint and sculpt of this guy. And since I got tired of saying it over and over, I decided to record it with my phone in case there was data corruption this time. But check it out. So as we dive into the base here, I did go over and look at Star-Lord. Mrs. X was doing some work on him because she broke him last night. Yep, true love. I still love her. She collapsed a shelf on him. It was pretty bad. But so this base is meant to match him, absolutely. It has the same rock on the bottom, and a lot of my comments are the same. I think they were missing a little bit of texture on the rock. It doesn't look bad by any means, but it does have a tiny bit of a plastic feel, and I can't tell if that's the sculpt or the paint. I tend to think that it's the sculpt because I think they did a nice job on the paint with the different shades of the gray and then the white on the tips of the rocks and even some green color on there. I think that's done well. But the sculpt, a little bit lacking, maybe a little more texture. And moving up to the Rocket, I think the Rocket looks good. This Rocket, not the character. So part of the spaceship here, it's all dented, so it was obviously, like I said, probably a crash if you think about Star-Lord coming out of that cockpit. Again, I like the black on top of the yellow here to show it that dirt, whether it's from the crash or just from the ship in general. It's all torn up by the thruster here. They even gave kind of a fire effect. Looks really cool. Some really good paint and sculpt on this piece. So I do like the base quite a bit. However, the star of the show, in my opinion, not only because he takes up the most present, but the paint and sculpt is done very well on Groot. I think this tree-like texture and the colors they used on him, not overpowering on the green, the yellow that goes with the grain of the tree, you know, the different branches sticking out. And like we talked about in concept, one thing I really like about him is truly he is a tree turned into a pretty fierce guy. We'll look at his portrait in a second here, but even look how his arms fully extended like he's gonna stab someone with it. Same thing, kind of pointed nails up here. But even look at the detail on this. There's a little bit of a gloss on him, which I kind of like. But even look at this texture here. Even though the moss or green effect on there looks good. Really well done. And then here's his portrait. I like the white eyes. I like his teeth. So Groot's kind of the star of the show. You know, Rocket's almost an afterthought, but I don't think intentionally. I think just because of his small size. So let's zoom in on him. First, I think the front of his portrait is his best part. Very clean on the paint. I like the sculpt of his fur. You know, sometimes they can really miss when you're sculpting fur on a character. Look at the moist effect they added around his gums, fierceness of his teeth. I like the fact they're not pearly white, they're a little bit yellow. I think there's a little bit of miss on some of the sculpted fur on the back. Granted, it's the back, so you'll never really see this. And I'm not so sure about the color choice. It's not as dark as I think it should be, but that is with high-powered light on it. Check out his uniform. I like the stitching right around the red. Very clean paint on this entire thing. See his little leather belt and his pouches there. Now his tail, I like the sculpt of the fur on his tail, but you can almost see the shading difference. A lot darker on his tail, the stripes in it. I like the leather look of his uniform. His gloves have a lot of the black scorching almost, it looks like. The guns look okay. Very comic-like guns, I mean that's what they are. Take a look at the front of his uniform here. Again, even his buckle and little symbol on his flight suit here look great. Look at the detail on that. And this is tiny. I would probably equivocate him to like a 1/8 scale character when you look at his height. So overall, paint and sculpt on this piece are pretty damn good. Few areas of opportunity, but I personally am really loving it. I think it's a knockout of the park for XM Studios. All right, so where do we grade it? Let's start with the sculpt. I think Groot is the star of the show on both the paint and the sculpt. As I said, I think the rocks could have been better. Certain parts of Rocket could have been better, but certain parts are amazing. You know, I think I'm going to give the sculpt actually a 5 out of 5. I am really impressed with this piece despite some of those flaws that I said. I absolutely love it. And I think the paint is equally as impressive. I don't know if it's a 5 out of 5 on the paint. Generally, when I'm between two grades, like out of a 4 and a 5, I go to the lower one. And I kind of was that way with sculpt, and I'm also kind of that way with paint. So we'll go ahead and say the paint's a 4 out of 5 on this piece. I'm almost teetering on pushing it to a 5 out of 5. You can just argue that it's done extremely well. I love how clean it is. In my opinion, XM Studios does a great job with their production pieces. Let's talk about value on this piece. So he costs about $1,000 US plus shipping. Now XM Studios doesn't hold the Marvel license throughout the entire world, so they don't have it in North America, so you have to go through a distributor. One of the many distributors I use, which is awesome, his name is Anton Wu. He is fantastic. He takes great care of me. But the problem is you still got to pay a crap load for shipping, and this was a huge box as you saw. So all in, depending on what shipping method you use and what price you get, you're anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 all in for this piece. That is a lot of money for a 1/4 scale piece. Granted, there are 2 characters, but Rocket's pretty small. And as I said, there is competition. Sideshow made a Groot and Rocket that is much more affordable, but it has a much higher edition size. I believe it's 1,000 or more or something similar to that, where this piece they only made 300. Or is it 350? And while I haven't seen the Sideshow piece in person, speculating that this one is much better than that piece, I can tell you on the concept alone it is. But nonetheless, this is more of a secondary character. He takes up a lot of room. I think the value is a 3 out of 5. I think you can definitely get your money back because of the low edition size. But I think trying to flip it for more money will be difficult down the road. So does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? Now, we don't add up the other scores to get that. We just kind of look at it. Is this badass? Is this super cool? I really like this statue. I'm going to have to say that this does have the X factor. I've done this 4 times in a row, and it's just as exciting each time.
That's what she said.
I give him a 5 out of 5 for sure. He definitely has the X factor. I'm a little bummed that I won't be able to display Rocket on top where I'm putting him because I think it looks much better there. But I'll cry myself to sleep and I'll be okay. So if you want to see what some of those other pieces look like, I'm going to unbox the old Sideshow Gamora in a few days here. Make sure you've not only liked this video, but you've hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. And the reason why I tell you to do that is we drop daily content right here. So until you wait for tomorrow's, you can check out some of these other statues from XM Studios. And again, half of you haven't subscribed, so hit that Mr. X logo. Otherwise, I will talk to you tomorrow. It's actually probably today because I think it's after midnight right now and I have to get up in about 4 hours. Take care, guys.